You know what I love about paradoxes? They don't always arrive wearing a lab coat. Sometimes they show up as a pile of rice, or a missing alien, or one very annoying turtle. And before you know it, you're sitting there thinking, wait, that should not be a problem. But somehow it is. So today, we are opening 5 more paradox files. And this time, I don't want to just explain them. I want to put you inside them because some ideas only get weird when they happen to you. Let's start with a grain of sand. Actually, no. Let's make it rice because rice feels less dramatic. Imagine I place one grain of rice on a table. That is obviously not a pile. Nobody walks into a room, sees one grain of rice, and says, wow, someone really left a pile here. Now I add one more grain, still not a pile. I add another, still not a pile. And another and another. At no point does one extra grain suddenly become the magical grain that turns not a pile into pile. But if I keep going long enough, eventually everyone agrees that there is a pile of rice on the table. So here is a problem. When did the pile begin? This is called the Syrtis paradox. Syrtis comes from a Greek word connected to heaps, which is fancy ancient language for okay, but how many grains before we panic? The paradox is about vague words: pile, tall, rich, old, bald, safe, dangerous, too much, not enough. These words feel clear when examples are extreme. One grain is not a pile. 1,000 grains probably is. But the border in the middle is blurry. And the weird part is we live inside blurry borders all the time. When does a messy room become a disaster? When does being tired become burnout? When does saving money become hoarding? When does confidence become arrogance? We pretend language has sharp edges, but most of the words we use for life are more like fog. And honestly, that explains so many arguments. Two people may not even disagree about the facts. They may disagree about where the pile begins. That one bothers me because it sounds tiny. Like, oh no, rice philosophy. But then you realize the same problem appears in law, medicine, money, identity, morality, and relationships. One grain at a time, the whole world gets blurry. Now, file number 2, the Fermi paradox. This one starts with a very simple question. Where is everybody? Not in a lonely birthday party, in a universe way. The universe is enormous. Not big apartment enormous, not Texas enormous. More like if your brain says it understands how big the universe is, your brain is lying to make you feel better. There are hundreds of billions of stars in our galaxy alone. Many of these stars have planets. Some planets may sit in the right zone where liquid water can exist. And the universe is old, very old. So, if life can happen elsewhere, and if intelligent civilizations can arise, and if even a few of them become advanced enough to explore space, then why does the sky look so quiet? No obvious alien cities, no clear signals, no giant space billboards saying, hello Earth, your parking is terrible. Just silence. That is the Fermi paradox. The numbers make alien life feel likely, the silence make it feel suspicious. And there are so many possible answers. Maybe life is rare. Maybe intelligent life is rare. Maybe civilizations destroy themselves before they spread. Cheerful. I know. Very cozy bedtime thought. Maybe aliens are out there, but too far away. Maybe they communicate in ways we don't recognize. Maybe they visited long before we were looking. Maybe everyone is listening and nobody is sending. Which honestly sounds like universe is in a group chat where everyone is typing and deleting. But the scariest possibility is called the Great Filter. The idea is that somewhere between dead matter and galaxy wide civilization, there is a step that is almost impossible to pass. Maybe the hard step is behind us. Maybe life itself is a miracle. Or maybe the hard step is ahead of us. This is what makes the Fermi paradox feel less like a science question and more like a warning. The question is not just where are the aliens, it is also what happens to civilizations like us. Now, file number 3, Achilles and the tortoise. This one is old, ancient Greek old, which means people have been losing sleep over turtles for thousands of years. Imagine Achilles, a legendary fast runner, races a tortoise because apparently nobody in ancient philosophy had normal hobbies. The tortoise had a head start. Achilles starts running. To catch the tortoise, Achilles first had to reach the place where the tortoise began. But by the time he gets there, the tortoise moved a little farther. So, Achilles had to reach that new place. But by the time he reaches that, the tortoise moved again. Not much, just a tiny bit. But still, the tortoise is always a little ahead. So the argument says Achilles can never catch it. Now, obviously, in real life, Achilles would pass the tortoise quickly. The tortoise would probably be offended, but it would happen. Why does the argument feel weird? Because it breaks motion into infinitely many steps. First, the distance, then half of what remains, then half again, then half again. And suddenly, getting anywhere sounds impossible. You can do this with walking across your room. Before you reach the door, you must get halfway there. Before you finish the rest, you must get halfway again. Then halfway again. So, if there are infinite many halfway points, how would you ever arrive? The answer involves limits in calculus, but the human version is simpler. Infinite steps do not always mean infinite time. Some infinite series add up to finite amount. That is the math. But the feeling of paradox is still powerful because it exposes something strange about reality. Motion feels smooth, but when you slice it into logic, it starts looking impossible. It is like your brain can walk across a room just fine, until philosophy asks it to explain itself. Then suddenly your brain is standing there with a clipboard sweating. File number 4, the twin paradox. Imagine two twins. One stays on Earth, the other one goes into a spaceship and travels close to the speed of light. They fly away, turn around, and come back. When they reunite, the space traveling twin is younger. Not emotionally younger. Not you still dress like it's 2014 younger. Actually younger. Less time has passed for them. This sounds like a paradox because both twins can say, wait, from my point of view, weren't you the one moving? So why does one twin age less? The answer comes from Einstein's relativity. Time is not the same for everyone everywhere. Motion affects time. Gravity affects time. And the traveling twin changes direction, accelerates, returns to Earth. So the situation is not perfectly symmetrical. But what I love about this paradox is not just the physics, it's the emotional weirdness. Imagine leaving home for what feels like a few years. You come back, your sibling is older, your friends have aged, your parents may be gone, the world moved on without you. Science fiction uses this all the time because it hits something very human. Time is not just a clock, time is people changing while you're away. And relativity takes that feeling and makes it literal. The universe is basically saying time is personal, which is beautiful and also deeply rude. File number 5, The Unexpected Hanging Paradox. This one sounds like a riddle from a judge who needs a Harvey. A prisoner is told, "You will be hanged next week on one weekday, but the day will be a surprise." The prisoner thinks about it. If it reaches Friday and he has not been hanged yet, then Friday would be the only day left. So it would not be a surprise. Therefore, it cannot happen on Friday. But if Friday is impossible, then Thursday becomes the last possible day. So if he is alive Thursday morning, he would know it would happen Thursday. Not a surprise. So Thursday feels impossible too. Then Wednesday, then Tuesday, then Monday. The prisoner concludes it cannot happen at all. Then on Wednesday, the guards arrive and he is surprised. That is the paradox. His logic seemed to remove every possible day, but the event still happens and the surprise arrives. This one is slippery because it deals with knowledge, prediction, and self-awareness, self-reference. It asks, can you predict being surprised? If you know something will surprise you, do you still know it? And if your prediction changes, how you understand the event, did you predict it correctly? This is the kind of paradox that makes your brain look at itself in the mirror and say, please stop. But it matters because humans do this constantly. We try to overthink the future. We say, I know exactly about this conversation. I know how this exact conversation will go. I know exactly how I'll feel tomorrow. I know exactly what they'll say. I know exactly what will happen. And then reality walks in on Wednesday. Surprise. The future has a way of slipping through the loopholes in our certainty. And maybe that is the point of all 5 paradoxes. A pile of rice shows us language is blurry. A silent universe shows us knowledge has terrifying gaps. A racing tortoise shows us motion is somewhere stranger than it feels. A traveling twin shows us time is not as universal as we wish. An unexpected hanging shows us prediction can never trip over itself. Paradoxes are not puzzles. They are places where our mental shortcuts stop working. That is why they feel uncomfortable. Your brain likes clean categories. Beginning and end, true and false, here and there, now and later, possible and impossible. But reality does not always fold itself into neat little boxes. Sometimes the box leaks. Sometimes the turtle wins for a few thousand years. Sometimes one grain of rice quietly causes a philosophical crisis. And sometimes the universe looks completely empty, even though the numbers say it should not be. So the next time something feels obvious, maybe pause for a second, ask where the edge is. Ask what you are assuming. Ask whether the question answer is actually clear. Or whether your brain just made it feel clear so you could get through the day. Because that might be the creepiest thing about paradoxes. They do not only break logic, they reveal how much of everyday life was held together by vibes. And now I have one question for you. Which one bothered you the most? The pile with no clear beginning? The alien who should be there but are not? The turtle that logic cannot catch? The twin who returns younger? Or the surprise that survives being predicted? Because whichever one annoyed you the most, that is probably the one your brain is still trying to solve.